Hi, this is Pat, and in this video we're going to talk about podcasts. Podcasts are a great way for people to get audio content from your services or other resources, maybe music that you might be sharing online. And a common interface for podcasts is the iTunes Store. And here we can see I've selected a few example podcasts, and people can subscribe to these, download them to their phone, and stay connected with your congregation. So let's take a look at how easy it is to create a podcast using the Digital Faith platform. In this tutorial, we're going to create a new podcast like this, sample podcast. So to do that, we're going to log into our management system, and we're just going to simply add a publication. And we're going to call this Digital Faith Music, just as an example. And I'm not going to place it in any folder. I'm going to go ahead and include it in navigation so that we can use it during this tutorial, but you probably don't need to include it. And then I'm going to just simply check the box, this is a podcast. And I'm going to create that publication. And the first thing I want to do is edit the publication. The reason I want to do that is to complete some of these additional forms so that I can populate my podcast in the iTunes Store. Let's just say this is some music we like. And the author, I'll just put myself here. And let's use our help desk address. Oh, and let's find an image. Now for images, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the hub and take a look at this. Images for this area need to be at least 1400 by 1400 pixels in resolution. And I've created this little piece of art as for our podcast, so I'm going to place it in there as the proper size. And then I'm going to select the music category, and let's just say it's inspirational, and a podcast description. I'm just going to say we'll update this with music we like from time to time. Now I've created some additional little controls down here for you. We can click learn more about podcasts, and you can get all sorts of details from Apple about that. But I'm going to go ahead and click update the podcast now. And I think I'd like to add an article to the podcast, so I'm just going to do that. And let's just say another song we enjoy. And I think this is going to be some Brazilian music, and I'm just going to put it as coming out on that date. And I'm going to just say that I posted this. Now I could add another image to this, and I can also add the audio file to this. So for my audio file, I've uploaded one to my recent files library earlier before I started the tutorial, and here we can see the MPEG format of Smooth Tunes. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that and place that here. And I'm going to estimate that it is 4 minutes and 20 seconds, but that could be picked up through your iTunes. We'll show that in just a little bit. And I'm just going to say another tune here. And I'm going to create the article. So now that I've created the podcast and I've got one song in there, I can click open in a new window just to take a look at my podcast through the browser. And I also get my URL. I'm going to keep that for just a second open. And now I want to go back, and we'll need to do this the first time we create our podcast. So we've created our podcast, and now we'd like it to show up in the iTunes Store. So I'm going to click on the Submit Podcast button, and that's going to pop open my iTunes application with the Submit open on it already. So just going to grab the URL from my browser, which is my podcast URL, and then I'm going to click Continue. Now it's asking me to verify my account at iTunes, and now it's reading the podcast information and building that podcast and giving me a little bit of a preview. So here we can say, we can see the artwork, the name, the author, a short description, my long description, and the categories. So I'm going to go ahead and submit my podcast, and it's been submitted, and now I can just wait for Help Desk at Digital Faith to get an email from Apple about my podcast being in the store. Now, the amount of time it'll take for Apple to review your podcast can vary, but it wouldn't surprise me if it takes a day or two. So while we wait for that, I just wanted to show you a few more things about how you can manage your podcasts and your audio files to get some good results. So the first thing I want to point out is when using the iTunes application, you can go to your music and you can see a listing of your audio files. And one thing that you probably want to do for your audio files is import them by going Add to Library and bringing those into iTunes from whatever device you've recorded your audio on. And then once it's in your iTunes store, I would suggest converting this to an MP3 version. So I'm going to click Create MP3 Version. And there we see at the top of our list now, because I've got this sorted by date, the most recent version, which has been converted to an MP3 version. And now if I go Show in Finder, which is what I have on my Mac, you may have different results if you're on a PC, that will take me to the location of the file so that I've got a good MP3 version that I can now upload to my file library. So I'm going to go over to Recent Files and click Add New, and I'm going to select that file from my desktop. I'm just going to copy it over there to make it easy to find. And so if I click on Select now, I see the MP3 version that I want. I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to name this Audio for Second Podcast Article. And I'm going to upload that. Now that that file is uploaded, I've got that URL that I can use to create the next article. So I can simply go back over to my file now, and the workflow for adding additional articles to my podcast is really very easy. I can just paste that URL in there, give it a title, Second Psalm, and I think this is just 30 seconds or so. And the date now, the date is going to set the order of how these appear. And if you put a future date, it won't appear in the podcast and it won't appear in the store until that future date arrives. So in this example, I've done September, but let's just say I want that to be August 23rd. Again, I can add author, subtitle, and if I want to have a particular image for this, I can. And what you'll notice is that on some of these there's no WYSIWYG editor, and that's because for podcasts, these audio files and the posting of those audio files need to be plain text into the Apple Store. I can take another look at my podcast, and now I can see the first and the second ones, and we can continue to add podcasts to our library and build our podcasts. So this is how you can go about adding a podcast to the iTunes library and to your site. And I look forward to hearing how you like that. Thanks.